What is up, everybody? On this episode of Lost Socket Garage, we get to take the motor out of Thelma.
Yeah.
In a world full of cheap coilovers, tow hooks, and eBay turbos, one man set out to create a channel to educate, motivate, break things, fix those things that he broke, but most importantly, make the mistakes so you don't have to. Join him as he goes driving through life.
What's up, everybody? It's Hunter, Lost Socket Garage, and
Chris
says hi. So, lots of headway. If you haven't seen last episode, where we turned the Coupe into a Fastback, check it out. Yeah, we made quite a bit of headway. So far, almost died. So far, we've gotten the inner structure all welded up. Really so pretty. Look at all those welds. New floor pan for the passenger side. We have the skins just kind of sitting on right now. The trunk mocked up. Get it? Mocked.
mocked.
Mocked up, like Mach 1.
Wow, 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 wow.
Fuck you. Trunk's mocked up, taillight extensions. Everything is just kind of, so the skin is actually just kind of screwed in right now. We're not going to do much with that right now. Today, what we have to do is prep it for blasting, which means this 351, even though owner says it was freshly rebuilt, you need to take it out. It could be.
All we know is it runs.
It does run. We did hear it run, and it sounded pretty damn good, even though the fuel lines were running into a bucket. That bucket had fuel in it.
That's how rednecks do it.
That was super ghetto. I dug it, though. It was good shit. So we're going to rip all this out, and we're going to begin prepping for sandblasting, and we'll probably actually get to that this episode. Chris, take us through a little bit of the game plan here before we start our handy-dandy 80s montage.
So what we're going to do, rip out this awesome motor, by the way. A lot of possibilities with this base 351. You can do a lot of things. So we're going to take it out with the transmission. It's got an automatic. We're probably going to go with a manual, to be honest, unless the customer wants a C4 or a C6. So, but usually people don't, but you never know. So we'll take that out, make sure all the wiring, because it's going to get replaced, we're going to take all that out, get all the interior cleaned out so we can media blast the interior, the floors, and underneath the car as well, so we can get it ready to spray some Pour 15 to keep that rust from coming back.
So when starting on ripping a motor out like this, what are your first steps?
You want to drain all the fluids. You don't have to, but it makes quite a big mess if you don't. I've done it. I got in the habit of just draining everything. Fluids are cheap enough. It doesn't really matter. Yeah,
they're coming out either way. Yeah, especially if it's something where you just bought the car, you just bought the motor, change the oil in it.
Yeah, you don't know how long it's been in there, or even if there is oil in it.
Don't be dumb. Just change the oil. And the coolant, all the fluids.
They're cheap enough.
So, drain everything. Next step.
Drain everything, and then we'll start unbolting the motor mounts, the transmission mounts, take out the radiator, take off the fan, all the hoses, and then lift it up, and we'll take off the headers, and then it should come out pretty darn easy.
Technically, it should come out. Now, one thing that we can see that might be really, really interesting here is the type of bolts that they use to secure the headers are not just standard issue 40 years of rust, but they're also hex bolts?
Yeah.
Or hex head?
Yeah, Allen head. I don't know why. I don't know why you wouldn't use a normal bolt on them.
And all of them are Allen head. It's not just like, you know, sometimes you'll run into something where it's like,
well, we got to patch it.
3 of them are normal, and then the one's an Allen. No, all of them are Allen. So this is going to be super duper fun. But we'll skin that cat when we cross the bridge. So what we're going to do now, first step, we've already jacked up the car You know, it's way up there. We're using safety goggles and safety things and all the things that you should be doing at home. And gonna drain the fluids and start our handy dandy time lapse, and we'll let you know how it goes. Cue! Woo!
Ric Flair.
Fuck, I'm deaf. Cue the time lapse!
Watching the video. If you like it, like and subscribe.
Ready, coach?
So you're a trainer.
Woo! Riding hard.
Well, that was eloquent. So that was easy. Now, most people, when you watch these videos, a lot of people are going to be like, hey, these are the steps you need to take out the motor. A, B, C, D, E. In all reality, it's going to be A, 7, 3, B, D, H, fuck all. I mean, there are things that you need to do and be aware that you need to disconnect and shit, but you're going to pull audibles along the way. So, for example, here, we started off with taking off the exhaust until the car peed on me.
That was my fault.
Twice. Peed on me twice. And then after that, we went ahead and drained the fluids like you should. Got a pan for once you take the drive shaft out, your trans is going to leak fluid, so you need to make sure there's a pan under there, especially when you're pulling it out.
An aggressive angle like we did.
Giggity. Aggressive angle. Motor and trans together. What did we do after that? After we disconnected the drive shaft, we went motor mounts.
So we undid all the stuff for the coolant, all the wiring. You're supposed to take the headers off once you get to a certain point, because sometimes it'll hit on the steering box and stuff like that. Luckily, this side, the passenger side, was okay. We did a little modification to the header on the driver's side since we're going to be putting shorties on this anyway.
Well, and one of the things with this is normally there are hex bolts in here, but for some reason, and none but love for you, dude, if you're watching this video, guy who owned it before us, but for some reason they put Allen head bolts, what was it, H5/16?
5/16.
5/16 Allen. And so basically what happens is there's a bolt on either side of each tube, and when the tube bends back towards the rear of the car, the bolt on the inside, I mean, there's there's a little dent, right? You know,
yeah.
Hooker did that little indentation, but honestly, we couldn't get the tool in there, so we got a different tool in there. It was a much bigger tool, much sharper.
Much sharper. So Sawzall,
yeah.
best friend.
Sawzall. So cut those off, and then we only unbolted the motor mounts, and then we lifted the motor up, and then we actually pulled the bolts out. What else do we do? The little stuff.
Took the trans cross member off so it could swing down so we can get that angle to pull it out. What else?
Linkage.
Had to undo the linkages, make sure all those are free. Anything hooked to the trans and engine's got to be undone.
Which thankfully on old ass cars there's not a ton, especially if you already have the wiring harness out like we do. But here we are. We did big boy stuff. We pulled the motor and trans out, same time. Hey. Now, that was crisp.
That was very nice.
Very nice. Now we're going to take the trans off, and then we'll bolt the motor to an engine stand. And we'll probably end up kind of going through the motor a little bit later. I don't think we're going to use this transmission. Chris, what trans do you want to put on this? I mean, we'll obviously cater it to the customer, whoever ends up buying it, what they want. But what would you prefer to put on this?
I'm a manual kind of guy, so at least a T5 that will handle some torque. Probably rebuild the one that we have so it's a little stronger. If someone wants to do a 427, that's when you get into the TKO versions of the 5 speeds and 6 speeds because they're a little more higher torque rated.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a situation where the trans is, I mean, we're probably not going to use it. It just kind of depends. This car still is for sale. We'll be keeping this motor in trans, so if someone comes along and says, hey, you don't want the 4-speed automatic, this is the C6, and we'll say, okay, that's fine. But most likely with this car, we'll end up going with a different transmission. So next step, now we have the motor in trans out. Next step is we're going to pitch a tent. Yeah, we're going to pitch a big old tent, tell you what.
Big white tent.
Strip everything down, and then we're going to sandblast it once we set up the tent. So we're going to go ahead and move right along to pitching our tent and sandblasting.
Yeah, that's fun. I think it's snack time, I think.
I think it is snack time. What do I have for snack? There's chocolate. Oh, I have goldfish! And for your Lost Socket Garage tech tip of the day. Why you gotta be so awkward? If you purchase chips from the grocery store to snack on in the shop, and you don't have a chip clip, bam! Jumper cable chip clip. Tell you what, silly. That's not awkward.
Is the lighting good?
Yeah, it's great. All right, here we are. We have the tent set up. Thank you. The tent set up in my driveway. Super excited about that. We put a tarp down so that we can easily-ish clean up. So, to blast, what are we going to use?
So, we got our good media blaster here, courtesy of your local Harbor Freight.
Hashtag Harbor Freight.
It's a 110 gallon, or not 110 gallon, 110 pound media blaster.
Dope.
And then in that goes, we're going to use black aluminum oxide, 70 grit. Ugh.
Let's talk about safety, since we're all about safety here.
Sometimes. I ask what happened yesterday.
I got peed on by a car twice.
Not by your partner's fault.
Uh-huh.
Gloves. Protection. Because this sand or aluminum oxide, whatever you're using, is coming out at a very high rate of speed. If you do hit your hand, it will hurt really bad and take off skin.
That would suck.
A mask.
Bee catcher mask.
A hood.
Bee catcher.
Bee catcher. But it's got a big hole right here. So
what goes in that?
We're going to use...
Oh, thank God. Please put this on. That's...
It's going to go like this. Not really sure why they have the helmet.
Okay, this is what I need you to do.
It doesn't really fit.
I need you to say, I will fart in your general direction.
Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries. What's a strange person? We're going to be using a paint bodysuit. Seals everything. Keeps it out from getting in your clothes. Areas you don't realize sand gets into.
Yeah. Like your crack.
Respirator. Same thing if you're going to be painting, you'll want to not inhale the sand or aluminum oxide as it can rip up your lungs.
All right. So.
And some safety goggles.
Safety goggles. Muy importante. Yes. Not like shitty safety, like goggles that like touch your face, like around the eyes.
Like swimming goggles.
Like swimming goggles. Now, all right, so we're going to roll her in the tent and get started. Well, we did some blasting. Got part of the trunk pretty much blasted out. We still have to do this side and well the rest of the car. But you can see the difference. Huge difference. Huge freaking difference. There's no rust, there's no paint. So in here, I actually started with the Eastwood with Trixie. Started getting off some of the metal in here, or some of the rust in here, rather. And then we'll come back through in these smaller areas. It's all covered in media right now, but, you know, I came through and took off all the paint right here, but in these areas, you just can't get that wheel in. So we'll come through and blast that. Again, this is weld-through primer, but we're going to take it off before we actually prime it. So a lot of things to still do on this. We'll need to do the undercarriage as well, so that when we put seam sealer on and pour 15, etc., it's ready to accept it.
Yes.
Yes, accept it. On to the motor. All right, so we did pull the motor earlier, obviously. Guy we bought it from said it was rebuilt, right?
Yeah, said it was. We heard it run, so it sounded good. No knocking.
Sounded good. So just to make sure, though, we wanted to take the valve covers off. We wanted to take the intake manifold off. We took the oil pan off, which obviously is really, really important, so we could see the cylinder walls. There were still like the cross hatching on them and stuff. So everything looked really good. The only thing I was a little worried about was it looks like some paint got through to the oil pickup. So the oil pickup has a little bit of paint in it, but nah, clean that out.
Not enough to restrict it, so.
Yeah, so not too bad. We don't know what we're going to do with this yet.
Sky's the limit on this. We can put it back together as it is with some updated valve covers. It'll still scoot and boogie in it, or we can go 408, we can go 427, aluminum heads, nice Lopi cam, get some serious power out of them.
Yeah, so interesting fact, something I didn't know before, that the 351 is actually, it's the same block that you use for the 427. Stroked.
Mm-hmm. We can show you what has actually changed. We can do our little fancy, what is it, Jack in the Box?
Yeah. You're gonna keep singing, or are you just gonna make this awkward?
I thought it was fun.
So one of the things we kind of looked at here is cylinder walls. Can't really get the light in, but well, I mean, you don't want to see any scarring, obviously. You want to see this little crosshatch. I don't know if I can get the cross hatching on
a little bit there, but
on camera, but basically you want to see that it's freshly honed, so you'll see like this cross marks. X-Force. You'll see like these little cross marks on the block itself. So, Chris, educate us.
Okay, so this is what we call the bottom end. It has the crankshaft, connecting rods, pistons, all stored inside the block. The heads are considered part of the valve train, which is the top end of the motor. So if you want to keep it a stock 351, we use the stock rod, stock crank, and it has a 3.5-inch stroke with a 4-inch bore. With these motors, usually they've been rebuilt a couple of times, so they're usually about 30 thousandths over 40. Up to 60 is about the max you can go, because sometimes you run into cooling issues because the passages are too thin and it can't transfer that heat out. But when we do a 408 or 427, we actually replace all of this rotating assembly. You get different rods, you get different cranks, so it actually lengthens the stroke to just over 4 inches, so you get a lot more cubic inches, which equals more power. So they're pretty easy to do. Not a lot of modifications needed.
And depending on what we end up doing with this motor, we can walk you guys through. We're just doing a lot of stuff in this episode, so I didn't really want to walk people through how to take manifolds off and all that good stuff. But I mean, with these old motors, super simple, right? I mean,
they're real simple.
I tore it down in probably 20 minutes or so. Doesn't take long at all to tear it down. But looks good, so this will be in a future car. It may be in
this one.
That one out there. It depends on who wants what. On that note, Thelma, newly named Thelma, is available. So if any of you out in YouTube land want to buy a coupe, it's a good time to do it, so that we can actually build it to however you want, as far as what suspension you want, what body style do you want. Do you want GT500? Do you want something a little bit more aggressive than a GT500? Motor, trans, any combination, it's the best time. So leave a comment or contact us through lostsocketgarage.com. We're also on Facebook, obviously. All right, so next episode of Lost Socket Garage. Hopefully that's going to be sandblasted, and we're going to actually start putting everything together. We'll probably weld up the skins so that it looks like a whole car. Maybe we'll shoot a little primer. Who knows? Pour 15, that's going to go on seam sealer.
Yeah.
But that's it for this episode. Check us out on Facebook, Lost Socket Garage. If you liked any of the content here, feel free to subscribe. Hit the like button, comment, do all the YouTube stuff. If you go to lostsocketgarage.com, you can enter to win $500. $500. All you got to do, is that it? Is that it? That's it. Kinda. I don't know how that's going to turn out in post.
Do this.
It's 5 and then a double fist. Okay, so all you got to do is go to the website and buy an awesome shirt like this. You want to turn around and be a model of the shirt?
This is a new shirt, so it's nice and clean.
Brand new. Look at that. Lost Socket Garage. Sport the merch. It helps the channel. You can also win $500. Every $5 spent is one entry. Tell your friends about the channel. We're going to be doing this crap a whole lot. Plus, we got some really big stuff coming down the pipe that we're super excited about. So, until next time.
Be happy. Do what you love.
Don't be a dick. And as always, keep on driving. Peace.